homework that had been given was, um, you know, go look at yourself and try and find a career for yourself that would fit, that would uh, make your ikigai come true. And so I don't know if those that watched the videos or those that were there did this, but if so, that's a good starting point. If not, well, you can think maybe of your top three career ideas right now, and we're gonna try and apply the ideas in today's training too. So let's start with the first slide. So dream job or daydream. So what do I mean by that is that a lot of people dream of a job, but they don't really know what it's about. Uh, in reality, every job could become the job of your dream if you truly love it, if you're really passionate about it, and if you deal well with the routine that it supposes. Uh, and at the same time, every job could become living hell if you don't actually like it, or if you dislike your coworkers, or you feel under or over challenged. So, first of all, do you have a clear idea of what this dream job is about? Did you just look at a salary grid and at a couple of cool things happening in there and decided that this would be your path in life? Or did you actually do a thorough validation of this orientation? Um, it's amazing how many of us actually choose a career based on the job description on the job board. Um, well, if you've been studying at university for many years, you're probably a little bit more methodical about that. You've had more years to think about it. But if it is not the field you have studied, maybe you just basically browse through the job boards and you look at an opportunity and you're like, all right, okay, so the pay is good, the schedule fits. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a bad company. Okay, I'll give it a shot. So if that's how you're choosing your career in life, you will end up left and right and up and down, basically. So beyond what's advertised on the job board, it's important to learn about things like the responsibilities that this job supposes, the tasks also. And here there's a big difference between tasks and responsibilities. So responsibilities are not necessarily things that you do, but they are things that you answer for, while tasks are the things that you do need to do. And some people don't deal well with responsibilities. Let's say, let's make it as bad as it can be. Let's say you have a team of eight incompetent working for you, as I've seen happen in places, and they have they are tasked with locking the doors every day, but they never do it, and they work at a bank or something. While you hold the responsibility of these eight incompetents, so are you willing to take that responsibility and take the responsibility for the security of the entire bank, basically? If not, you will feel bad in such a job. And the tasks are small things that you have to do. So it may involve washing the toilets, especially if you're an intern or the last guy at the company. Usually, you may get some very undesirable task for a long while. So, um, do you know how long the internship or the junior period will last? And do you know what it entails exactly? Next come wages. So if when somebody is ready to hire you, you don't have a clear idea of how much you're worth and how much you can ask for, um, then they can offer you pretty much anything, right? And you have no clue, you have no tools to negotiate. So it's very important as well to know at least a range for wages in a given field. Also, what's the current demand? Uh, there are uh, jobs right now, for example, that are have been completely redistributed in the world. What happened recently is that all restaurants and bars and everything that has to do with hotels and hospitality has been closed down. And has this has been closed down, well, those hospitality workers, they relocated. Now they may be working in warehouses, they may be working in all kinds of different jobs. And what it has created is a higher demand for hospitality worker, but it has also created shortages in other sectors because now the people that were in the warehouses, they're going back into hospitality. So riches were redistributed during the pandemics, but also expertise. In Canada, we have a phenomenon also where a lot of senior workers who found that they were not paid enough decided to drop their jobs and take the government grants and get a check every month. So another phenomenon that this has created right now is that senior level employees are difficult to find. They're not in the positions that they used to occupy. And then there are market trends. Some years consultants are more popular than others. Some years we want professional workers like that go out of occupational schools, and other years college graduates are more in demand. So it's important to look at your job and the curves of the market, see if it's a growing or a market that's slowing down, and decide whether it has a future for you. And then there are the requirements. A lot of people don't mind studying a lot. Others want to study as little as possible. So if you have decided to become a surgeon, well, guess what? You will have to study quite a bit. Um, so maybe there's balance to be found there as well. In terms of skills, you have the skills that you learn in school, but you also have some human skills, soft skills. For example, working with the public, having empathy, being generous with one's time or one's listening. These are things that just reading about them, you will get a feel if it's for you or if it's not. And then, well, it's good to know about where you can get the best possible training for that job beyond your university's reputation. Uh, is there sometimes you would have a specialized school that is doing even a better job, or a certification that is recognized by the industry and can help you access the job quicker. And so it's good to have a look at your different options in terms of trainings. And then pros and cons, meaning if you go just on Facebook or you start reading blogs of people that actually work in the industry, you will get to know what they like and what they don't like about their job. It could be the long hours or that triggers them, or the flexibility, or the fact that a lot of employers are very cool in that sector. But try and find out how they go about their daily life, because that's gonna be really what you're living. Um, if you don't have a good picture of what an 8 to 5 looks like and feels like, if you don't know what a typical week in your life would be in that job, if you don't know what happens monthly and quarterly and yearly in that type of job, then you really have no idea about the job. A lot of it will come as a surprise. So it's good to get that kind of feeling. Might be difficult to get that kind of a feeling without actually holding a job in the field, but it's a good idea to try and find as much information as you can before the fact. By the way, I see that everyone is on mute, and that is fine. If you have a question or if you have a commentary, feel free to jump in and speak your piece. I know it's more of a monologue when I do the PowerPoint, so let's make it a dialogue if we can. I'd appreciate that.
I figured. Just trying to
Good.
figure out a place to jump in.
Yeah, well, you can yell hey, and then I'll know. All right. So next slide. Knowledge is power, and um, you see here in the picture that it's opening a hidden door actually. But knowledge is power in more ways than we realize. Um, of course, it will help you prepare to get a better job, but it will also help you embrace the vocabulary. I have a short story about that. I said last session, I come from a poor family. I knew nothing about business or about the corporate world. I was probably destined to hold some manual labor of some kind. And when I decided to start my own business, then I had to embrace the corporate world. But I remember the very first few meetings that I managed to get, I would not understand anything that these people were saying. They were talking about profits and losses and balance sheet, and they would pass accounting sheets to me that they all understood and I did not. They would talk about EBITDA and valuations and shares and everything. So I felt like I did not belong for a very long time. Actually, to say the truth, it took me probably around 7 years to just acquire the basic vocabulary and knowledge to understand what was going on completely around me before I could talk business naturally, if you will. And these were 7 7 miserable years because I was pretty much in the mode of trying to fake it, faking that I understood, that I knew exactly what it was about. Because if I didn't do that, people would have lost trust and they would not have given me any business. So I was stuck in that situation. Now imagine if I had been smarter about this and I had decided to read more on the subject and learn these words and learn these documents and maybe get a coach or something in the beginning, then this knowledge would have helped me ramp up much faster in my new occupation. So that's one way that it would have helped me. But another very important thing about knowledge that we often fail to realize is that although we read a lot more now, these generations read a lot more than their predecessors. It used to be like the average American read about one book per year. And usually what they read was a novel or sci-fi or, something fantasy for entertainment purposes. Now, let's say that we actually are dealing with an adult that read one book about their field. Um, I don't know, let's say they're a mechanical engineer. So that mechanical engineering person reads one book about mechanical engineering per year, and I read two. Well, am I not acquiring knowledge twice as fast? Now imagine if I was to read a book every month instead about my field. Then I would acquire knowledge 12 times faster. And one could say, well, I'm maybe over time, I may become at least 10 times more competent than that person, or at least 10 times more up to date because I'm not solely relying on what I've learned in school. Um, but now let's imagine that I really am like a lifelong learner and I'm really passionate about what I do, and I decided to do that every week. It could be that I am subscribed to an abridged audiobook uh, service. It could be that I download an audiobook on Audible about my field every week and I just listen to it in my car, or I could read an actual book. So that would be 52 books a year. Um, so that's how actually I overcame my own limitation of not knowing anything about business language, vocabulary, and everything. I started reading a book per week, and I did that for a period of over 10 years. And then I realized that business was not everything that you needed good life habits. And so I started reading a book about, self-growth and stuff like that for another 10 years. So I read about 1,040 books. Probably some years I read less. Some years I read a little bit more. But let's say I read 1,000 books on practical stuff about my job and my field and how to take care of myself in it and how to perform. Well, it comes to a point that when you're sitting with someone that has 20 years of experience, but they're still relying on their university knowledge, where you basically can floor them every step of the way. They have no way to deal with you and to defend their points of view or whatever. So in that case, knowledge really is power. And that kind of power knowledge I'm mentioning here kind of transcends any formal education that you might acquire. So I'm making that point, I guess, very strongly because it is the way of the self-made man to jump in and learn everything and work very hard. Uh, there is a lot of self-realization to find there. There lots of dreams can come true there, and if you start applying that right from the get-go, right from the moment that you're looking for your career, then you're just setting yourself on the right track to become a huge success at it. If that's what you're aiming for. If you're just looking for a paycheck and 8 to 5, that's another story. But if you're looking to impress and get that position that you dream of, knowledge will definitely make a difference. So, in other words, school yourself. And so, beyond college and university, what I used to do, because I did not have that kind of formal education, is I would go on the websites of universities and I would look at the curriculum that they teach students. And so when I was interested in the discipline, let's say this month it was psychology, then I would spare a little bit of my money, save a little bit, and then I would go to the university store and I would buy all the books that fit with that particular curriculum. And then I would teach them to myself. Um, I would sometimes try to make friends with a tutor or someone that is studying that career and ask advices or sometimes answers from them, so I understood the subject matter a little bit more. And I did that with different careers. So I did that with computer engineering. I did it with business administration. I did it with sociology and some other fields that interested me. Um, and then once you have that basic knowledge, uh, first of all, you know if the field interests you. I, you understand here, I'm giving a recipe for people that did not study it in university. But if you have studied it in university, then you have that basic knowledge. So that's fine. You're already set there, but you can go farther. You can go and look at what certifications are hot and apply and take those certifications or study for them and understand what they're about. There are lots of self schooling places like Udemy and Khan Academy and Lynda.com on the web. You can also find a bunch of free tutorials, where from the VR space. So it's quite easy to learn Blender and Unity and these technologies just from the tutorials that are put online for free by these companies. So that's a very nice way to do it and to practice as well. And obviously, books are still an option, and there are more ways to learn. So don't rely on what you are taught or what people share with you about the field, because it is such a well-known fact that when you get out of the university and you start a job, you basically have to either unlearn or remember what you've been taught in school, but with a different twist, because nothing happens in real life quite as it does in classrooms. And so you need to get more practical knowledge. And the only way that you will get that is by diving into the real world and exploring a broader sense. Um, I've been a university professor for a while, and I'll explain very fast what's flawed and how a university training can never actually train you well. Let's say you're studying accounting. Well, you may have 140 hours on your curriculum for accounting. That is absolutely ridiculous. You have laws to learn about, business, about fiscality. You have to master all kinds of strange cases. You have to practice a lot to remember everything. and then you have different country regulations, exceptions, and so on. There is no way that somebody that gets out of a with a college degree with 140 hours of training in accounting is actually fully competent. That will happen uh, over time. So, and it's like that in everything. As a university professor, I was always frustrated that there was just that many hours in a semester, and I could never fit all the material that I wanted to fit in that little time. It's actually true of that workshop as well. We're ramping up to JobCon. JobCon is in June, and I had to cut this training from 20 chapters to actually nine. So I won't cover everything that I wanted, but hopefully we're going to do the essentials. Now, one good way to learn about your trade is your government. So I'm just focusing on America, on North America here, because that's kind of JobCon's proposition. So if you go in Canada, you can go to jobbank.gc.ca, and it's full of very interesting information. Actually, uh, these things here, the responsibilities, task, wages, demand, market trends, and almost all of that is covered in the Canadian Job Bank. I did not have the time to explore too much what the USA does, but I did see that there is a find a job website with a lot of resources. So I would advise that you explore that as well if you're in the States. And in Mexico as well, you see the gobierno.mexico slash empleo. So you have this opportunity as well to learn about your trade, but also see job offers. In Canada, I think the fact that they give you the wages per province and you get the minimum and the max and the median, that's very useful. They also tell you about all requirements. There's a job summary. So if you even if you're not in Canada, maybe you want to have a look there at the career profiles, and it will steer you in the right direction of the type of information you need to look for. I'd say the good thing about that is that it comes straight from the authority, so it's good quality, it's reliable, it's basic, but it's a very good startup kit. So maybe you have a look at these at yourself. Now, some job boards also include statistics. So if you look at Indeed, for example, you will have as well ideas for pay grades. Indeed's available in USA and Canada. It's the same thing for LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think, is available in Mexico as well. Monster also available in Canada and USA. LinkedIn has a specific appeal in that you can connect to the people that worked places or that have a certain profile, and you can ask them questions. Um Back in the days, there was something called LinkedIn Questions actually that I loved. I think it's not available anymore, but you could basically do a market study very fast in there. Subject matter experts would come and answer you, and that was awesome. But now you can connect with people one on one and ask whatever questions you have. Glassdoor, for those who don't know, is like it's like ex-employees rating where they worked. So you will get all kinds of insider secrets, whether management is nice or not, how they treat employees, what are the general working conditions. Craigslist is good for little jobs. Maybe not too recommended if you're looking for a legit career, but it's good if you want to practice or get something temporary. Uh, you have to be aware that these are classified, so you can probably end up in something illegal as well. So be careful if you work with Craigslist. LinkUp is a website that is actually connected to employers' websites. So it displays what's being published or withdrawn by said employers. So it's pretty much up to date. Workpolis, I think, is mostly Canada. And then for Mexico and most of Latin America, CompuTrabajo is probably the number one reference. Uh, OC Mundial, that's the largest, I think, in Mexico, and that's a subsidiary of Seek, if I'm not mistaken. and then you have option empleo. So all of these job boards are great as a complement of information, but please don't rely just on the description. Sometimes statistics are not necessarily available, but you can make your own by doing a few searches with certain keywords and looking at how many results they return. You can or you can do geolocalize that, use a certain city, a certain province, try your keyword, and then it will start drawing a picture of what's available and what the market trends are. So if you're looking to work in something that is a niche, uh, that's probably a good way to go at it. And again, there are niche boards, which I would definitely recommend you try to find that if you're doing something quite special. Um, because niche boards are used when you're looking for a set of skills that is not that common. For example, in design, there are so many designers all around, and so many are available for cheap all over the world, but so many just plain suck. So if you go on a website like Behance or Dribble or Carbon Made or Curlflip, you will get an idea of the talent of that person, how reliable they are. You will be probably able to look at a portfolio. So it adds value. And if you're, for example, a very good artist already, like you're a natural, you want to work in design, well, there's no better resume than your art. So you probably want to get onto one of these platforms and start showcasing yourself. Now in freelancing, same thing. Other services are like Upwork, Taptal, which Taptal is interesting because they only feature the top 3% of each field. So if you're not extremely talented and reliable, you are not featured on Taptal. There's We Work Remotely, famous Fiverr, obviously. If you're looking for jobs that pay 100K or more, you can find that on Ladders. And there's always something fishy for me. And here's a secret if you guys are not aware of that. 100K jobs do not end up on job boards. Nobody gets that desperate when they can't afford paying 100K or 200K to an individual. They usually don't get that desperate that they need to display that and make it available to the unemployed. You don't offer a 200K a year job to the unemployed. You offer it to the already employed. So you would work with a headhunter in a case like this. So usually, if you see a high paying job just sitting around, my personal opinion is that there's a trap. A company might be managed by very bad people and nobody wants to stay with them. And so nobody wants to refer people to them either. So they have to uh, get on a service and display it. Now, Ladders is a bit different because Ladder has this elitist flavor to it. It's, I think candidates have to pay just as much as employers have to pay. So it's basically a qualification. If you can pay the membership and if you're serious about looking for high paying jobs, then you belong to that site. Um, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but there was a dating site like this a few years ago. Maybe it's still running. But basically, if you wanted a membership in the dating website, you had to be able to pay $100,000 a year. So the idea was not that it was worth 100,000. The idea was that once you're a member, there's nobody else that cannot spare 100K in there. So your fortune is safe. You won't get like a toy boy or a boy toy or a sugar babe running away with your money. So that was kind of the proposal of that agency. I'd say that Letters is most more or less the same thing. It's like a country club. Tech jobs, well, Dice, Stack Overflow, GitHub, they all have a job section. Uh, Same thing for sales and veteran. So ex-military also have their own websites. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Maybe you are into pumpkin carving. And I'm not aware of that, but maybe that's a booming specialty in the world right now. So you might go and do a search for pumpkin carving specialists online, and maybe you will find that they have a website dedicated to them. So again, just take the time. I would say that it's much more logical to belong to these niche boards and learn about the craft and follow what's going on, what's being posted on these than it is on general job boards where 95% of the stuff doesn't really interest you. You would probably get higher value. You will get to know the who's who, what companies are hiring and everything. So that's all very useful, actionable information. And then maybe the cliche, it's who you know. But it really is who you know. It doesn't matter where you are getting your information from. The best place, probably, to get that information is from people, and directly from people, is what I mean. There was something I read a while ago. It said that 80% of your success in life comes from the people you know. And if you doubt that, just think of who's signing your paycheck. Somebody else, right? If there was nobody to sign your paycheck, then you wouldn't get a paycheck. That's as simple as that. So, no people, no money, no success, no nothing. Working is a social thing. The career is a social thing. And making it in life is pretty much a social thing as well. So, forget a bit the academics world and the research that you can do at least do the minimum of that, get good basis, but then realize that it's by mingling with people and going to the source that you will actually make the best preparation for your career. So some of the people to approach are subject matter experts. So you would think of active professionals. Better if you have them in your family and you can ask Uncle Jim about what it's like being an astronaut. If not, you can try reaching out to them on LinkedIn, as was mentioned before. But also ex-employees. The guy may not have worked 5 years there, but still has a dear or an awful memory of it. So, whatever way you will learn something useful. Recruiters obviously are supposedly trained to recruit in certain fields. Um, so, or they are given at least criterias by their bosses. You tell them, I want that kind of guy. So they can be very good sources of information as to what the market is looking for right now, which is another thing there. Uh, in my iTech fields, a lot of the expertise works through a lot of the knowledge actually is imparted through workshops and certifications. Right? And I think one reason for that is that it's actually agile. If I go and do my university studies, I may be in there for 3 to 10 years or more. Um, but if I do a certification now and I do another next quarter and another next quarter, you may end up like I was at some point. I had like 14 of these certifications, but the good thing is that I was always up to date. Um, so the market is that's how it works. You need to know what's currently needed because usually what you have learned in school, if you spend 10 years in school, well, once you get out of school, you're basically 10 years uh, late uh, compared to the market. They have to catch you up and they have to have you take those certifications. So if you just keep up with it, keep up with what the market needs, you'll be fine. Also, there are best practices. One of my favorite is the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PM Bach from the Project Management Institute. So there's a lot of things to learn there. To me, that's almost better than an MBA. And it's available right there on the web. Many people teach it. And these best practices will make you feel like you've worked in it if you study them well. Market authorities, obviously, regulators. Why regulators? Because when they decide something, the market has no chance. They have to obey. So if it's the government or if it's a professional order of sort, uh, market just has to take that turn. So it's very important to follow them. And obviously, authors, visionaries, influencers also usually have opinions about their field and will steer you in the right direction. Professional buddies. Uh, so you see, we're diving a little bit deeper. Now we're just connecting with people, but then we're asking ourselves, well, where do these people live? And the thing is that they belong to all kinds of organizations and they do all kinds of activities. So if I'm an engineer, maybe I belong to a professional engineers association, uh, or maybe I enjoy a lot. Uh, I don't know, piezoelectric phenomenon, and therefore I belong to the learned society of the same name. It could be like in Canada, we have professional orders and regulatory colleges. For example, we have what they call Collège des médecins, the College of Medicine, and they decide what's acceptable and what's not in medicine. They're the one writing those norms. So obviously, you need to know about that because if you don't comply with their rules, you can never practice, you can never work in that field. So it's kind of part of your training to learn about it. Fellowships or any groups of enthusiasts. Uh, for example, car mechanics tend to like cars, and sometimes they do drag racing on the weekend, or they're members of street racing, whatever. But they do something with cars. Sometimes they're body shop enthusiasts. They like painting their cars. They like shining them. So there are all kinds of little groups based on passion and interest grow around every field, and they're an awesome source of information. Uh, because these are the people that think about that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're as good as a formal teacher, I'd say. And then enterprise alumni, when a certain company is prestigious or has a lot of employees, people like to display their affiliation, like to display that they were part of that company, or they like to keep in touch with their ex-colleagues because it's a good network, good professional network. So enterprise alumni is also a good place to, if you have access. Most of them are private, but if you have access, do attend their meetings and see what it's about or get invited. And then there are many related events. So in every field, we have special conferences, workshops, trade shows. One that is especially interesting to me is awards, because you get to meet maybe the best companies there, or there's a lot of politics in awards. So if you manage to get on the right side of the right people, that could actually be very great for you. But other than that, conference and workshops obviously will deepen your knowledge about your field. Trade shows will be great to make contacts. And here's the thing, when you are looking for a job or you're preparing for a career, you are basically marketing yourself in the sense that you are taking yourself to the market. Now, there is a principle in marketing that says that uh, advertising isn't efficient under for exposure. It starts to be efficient after four. That means that instead of doing like just one magnificent ad during the Super Bowl, you should probably do more than four during regular games. You will be more remembered because people kind of warm up to you through exposure, through repeated exposure. So that's another reason to attend all of that. If you are constantly in the ecosystem of uh, the people that you want to know, of the job that you want to know, the career that you want to know, they will start recognizing you, and you will go from the person that they did not know to Joe or Jack or Jonathan, and they will name you by your name, and they will invite you in their circles slowly but surely. So that's, I feel, a great incentive to be actually doing that there. but don't be a bystander. You need to get involved. And you need to get involved, I would say, from a humble perspective. You are just starting, you have a lot of questions. Uh, just be humble and ask them. Do not nag people with your question, but say, hey, you know what? What you're doing, I really envy that. I admire it. I would like to know more about it, or I dream of working in that field. What can you tell me? What could you advise to me? And you will find that when you ask advice of somebody and you take their advice, they're kind of willing to help you make their advice fruitful. For example, if they say, "Oh, you should call my friend," and you call the friend and the friend is not returning the call, maybe they will call their friend and say, "Hey, you should really listen to that guy." But they may give you tip, they may invite you places. So really get wet, get involved, get compromised there. And if you can, the best thing you can probably do is help first. That's a principle I have lived by all of my business life. You are there. Nobody's sure of what value you have by now. You're just starting. But if you can help them with anything, just do it. If you're at a cocktail at an event and you see that their glass of wine is empty, maybe you can go and fetch another. Make yourself helpful, make yourself desirable there. And as you go and render little services to everybody, well, everybody will feel more inclined to render small services to you as well. So that's how you can go and network. I could get into the specifics also of forging an elevator speech and learning to introduce yourself efficiently, but we will see that in detail in a later workshop when we talk about personal branding and how to sell oneself. So for now, just get involved. Ask your questions, say your piece. Uh, don't blow too much in your own horn. Stay humble, and if you are asked to do it, then you can show what you're made of. You can show your stuff. But wait for the right time would be my advice there. You're there to learn. Again, we're learning about the trade. We're not there to teach others. Aside from that, you have obviously many resources online. So things that may not occur to us are movies. For example, if you're in the sales field, there are many great movies that were made about sales. There are many great movies that were made about trading as well. And even if they depict a crime or something, it shows you an aspect of reality, even if it's romanticized a little bit. If you want something that is more legit, then you can watch a documentary. There was a little series that I enjoyed forever, which was How It's Made, where they would do those very short, like 2 minutes documentary, and they would show you a line of production in a given field. And you would see, yes, the line of production and the robots and everything, but you would sometimes see the workers and how they feed into it, and you get a real sense of what they're doing day in and day out. Um, there are also documentaries about, yes, Alex, is there something you want to say?
Yeah, to go with how it's made things. I still watch it every once in a while. I love that show. Been watching it
How it's made?
recently.
Is it still running?
I'm not sure. I haven't like really had cable or anything to watch it lately, other than online. So,
Oh, well, yeah, I used to enjoy that a lot. And you have also those kinds of documentaries where when you have an emerging field, for example, like if it's aerospace or defense, or sometimes they will go and say spotlight on this field, and they make an entire documentary
yeah,
about it. So
and they'll cover what all goes into it, what all comes out of it, and the process of it as well. And that's what I love
right,
about shows and documentaries like that.
right. So I feel is a nice way to ingest a lot of information effortlessly because you have the visual, you have the people, kind of the emotion, and you have the good information as well. So it's a good introduction if you really are green into a given field. So I'd say definitely try that if you've never done it. And also universities. are trying to showcase what their careers are about. And so usually many universities have these channels where they say, okay, so become a chemical engineer, and they will have like a 30 minutes feature where students are talking, teachers are talking, and sometimes people that are employed in the field also, but graduated from that university, and they give you different outlooks on the same field. So that's interesting to me. Companies that are having a hard time recruiting as well, or that are going the extra mile with their HR department, might have such a channel where they do a little feature about each of the occupation. And obviously, human resources people, those that do that professionally, such as headhunters, might have a vested interest in showcasing those careers as well. But then you have social media groups. Um, for example, on Facebook, I'm sure you can find groups like VR engineers or VR enthusiasts, or I know there is a VR chat community, and so these are also awesome to learn about the do's and don'ts of the field and connect with great people. Uh, Recently found out through JobCon actually that there are mighty influencers that are just like at 1 or 2 degrees of separation, and these are the people that bring the information to the entire industry. So it's good to connect with these people and see what they're about. Specialized articles and blogs, other media outlets, very interesting. Market studies are that's one special trick that I always love to do. Let's say you want to go in the transportation field, whatever. Try and find the top 5 companies, let's say in the US or in Canada, that work in transportation, and figure out which ones are public. And you can find that out very easily by typing the name of the company in the stock market or something like that. Once you have found those that are public, go on their website and go to the investors section, and you will find their yearly reports. And those yearly reports are jam packed with crazy useful information. You will learn about the major risks of that business. You will get all the stats. You will know the wages that they pay their people. You might get the organizational chart. You may get emails and phone numbers of the people that could hire you. They are heavy reports, usually between 100 and 500 pages, but it's not all super important. You just scan through it and save the chunks that you like, highlight them, and you will learn an awful lot about your field from the best. So when I restructure companies and try to make a plan for their growth, usually I compare them with a same size competitor. And I say, okay, so that's kind of who you are. You might be doing a couple of things better and a couple of things worse, but it's kind of who you are. And then I take, let's say you're a local level company. Then I would take like a state or provincial level company and say, okay, so that's like the next step on your roadmap. Then I would take national and international. And so the international company is like where you want to be if you're ambitious as an entrepreneur. But I guess uh, these are the standards that you want to work for also if you are ambitious as a job seeker and as a candidate. So to look up to these companies that are properly structured, that are properly kind of analyzed and have metrics and key performance indicators about everything is a good gives a good idea of where you could arrive. So it helps clarify your vision a lot. And then there are simply statistics about the job market. So pretty much all governments have websites about that. Sometimes it's universities that have statistics departments. So that's something you might like to look into. And then, I mean, be creative. You have the entire internet as a playground. But do create a docket or an Excel file or a Word file and go and browse. Invest a couple of days in or 3 days or an entire week. You decide how long you're going to invest in it. But take time and invest some time in your career and investigating it and understanding everything you can about it. And then consign it all in one document with all of your notes, put them there. And if you are hesitating, if you're not sure yet what your calling is, maybe you're hesitating between a career or another, or maybe you have a top three or a top five, then by doing this, it will become uh, more and more obvious where you belong. For those that were there last time, remember that little puzzle piece, and finding what shape of puzzle piece you are. Well, this is about finding the shape of the hole in the puzzle. So once you understand who you are, and once you understand the shape that the hole that you're trying to fill, it's much easier to get the both of them together. So and that comes through knowledge. Um, and then if everything else fails, let's say for some reason you dropped out of school, you didn't get that formal training. You don't like reading too much about it. You don't like researching too much. You're more of a practical person. Well, then go full blown practical. Get some hands-on experience. A volunteer for your dream company. Uh, maybe your dream company won't want to hire you uh, right there, but this piece of advice was given to me a long time ago by someone who had done it. He wanted to to become a teacher, and he didn't want to work just for any school. He wanted to work for that school because it was close to home and he had locomotion trouble. And so he told me that for 2 months he would come at 8 o'clock in the morning and sit on the chair next to the rector's office and wait there from 8 to 5. And then when they threw him out, he would wait in front of the door, and then the next day he would be back. So he did that for like 2 months, and after that, they almost took pity on him and they said, "Okay, yeah, we can use you. We have this opening actually right now, so if you can help us with that, job is yours." And so if you're persistent, they will take you one way or another, either for a very low salary, even for free, or maybe they will pay you just like everybody else. But the thing is, go at that dream company and make yourself known and try and initiate a relationship there. My father used to say that, he said that about schools, that you could start as the janitor and end up teaching math. And I remember fighting my dad on that, saying, no, 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 that's impossible. You need credentials to teach math. Until I saw it happen. I saw a guy that was a janitor, and then he replaced the physical education teacher for a while, and then it's not like he became a full-time mathematician, but sometimes he would supplicate another teacher. They would say, "Oh, nothing complicated today," so they would pull him off as the physical education teacher, and they would have him supervise an exam or something like that. So, he had a little bit of his dream realized there and started off as a janitor. So these things work. You just have to believe that they do. Another thing, if you want to be like more methodical, for example, uh, let's say, yeah, you dream of going in engineering, let's say in aerospace, but obviously nobody's going to let you work in a field like that or any other field where there are lives at play without you having the proper credential. So maybe the good alternative there would be to work on the supply chain. What that means is that work for the people that supply the engineers, or work for the people that the engineers are supplying. And that way you will get very valuable insights because you will get to know what those suppliers are doing wrong and what problems they are causing to the engineers. And you will also understand how they're doing it wrong and what they need to fix it. And if you're on the other side and like I don't know, a field is always missing on the form and it's always causing a lot of trouble in the next step of the supply chain. Well, then you can coach your fellow workers as well. So you see that if you work around the field, you're also learning about that field. If you're doing it randomly, well, good for you. But if it's actually a plan that you've had, if you're just moving closer and closer to your actual goal, then it holds value and it will be useful in your career later on. So working on a supply chain is a good idea. You could try and do some freelancing in the field. Maybe you're not ready to tackle all of it, but I don't know. You'd say, okay, I'm not ready to freelance game development yet, but I could freelance game graphic design. I could start modeling 3D figures, or I could start doing 2D design for, I don't know, gaming companies' websites. And so you can start doing some freelancing, but selecting very well the customers you work with. And if you have no other option, then do what us poor people do and start your own business. The best way to climb the ladder is actually to buy your own ladder or make your own ladder. And that's what happens when you're starting your own business. So if you really want to acquire some hands-on experience, nobody wants to trust you, nobody wants to teach you, you're alone in the world. Well, take the bull by the horns and start. Do something modest, but do something in that direction. And as you take one step after another, you will make your dream come true. And then all of that, if you do it, will give you a clear destination, a clear path to follow, which I hope will be useful in your orientation process. And I guess that's it for today's presentation. So, any question, commentaries, or specific issues that you might have personally?
Well, I got something to say.
Sorry
What
again?
I okay, well, okay. Okay. What I got out of this was to read about the field because it's really good. It lets you know what you're gonna get into, make sure that the field is right for me. I also learned advertising, high paying jobs is sketchy. Uh, and high paying jobs are climbing jobs. And last thing, I appreciate you lecturing us, helping people find a job, and giving us your advice. You taking your time to talk to random people, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy you got something out of this presentation as well, Jimmy. It's nice to have you.
Yeah, man.
All right. Rika, I know you came a little bit late. I am sorry about that. There's a chance that we will repeat this in VR chat actually, because some people probably missed it. I might reschedule another session tomorrow. So if you want to take it from the beginning,
Oh, sure. No worries. Take your time.
right? Um, so just wanted to say that we'll see if it's possible. I'm going to do it again tomorrow for those that missed it. Anybody else with some closing words?
Personally, to do with the hands-on experience thing, I have like not much like working like what some people call a real job, but I have experience working with the Salvation Army.
Mhm.
Wasn't really much. It was only like a few hours a day, but for what I went and was doing, it was actually a pretty decent amount of money for how little effort it took.
Right.
All it really took was some just endurance for my feet, considering I have arthritis, and I was standing around the entire time, which arthritis doesn't help with that. So it was kind of like a bit of a test of my own endurance, even though it wasn't that much time. It still built up my physical body so I can be more used to possibly even harder labor working an actual job in the future.
Sure. And does that connect with your dream field, like what you would like to
I'd
work
like to
in
be
the
able
future?
to walk around the job site without pain, both mental and physical.
Is it like the physical pain that's affecting you mentally?
Yeah, mostly.
Yes.
But
All right.
also, like, working that job with Salvation Army helped me with some more social, like out in public, because I'm very much not into talking to people face to face. I'm not a fan of it. I've never really liked doing that, even with family. I prefer just having, like, I prefer talking through an avatar or talking via audio and only audio. It's just something I just kind of.
Yeah,
I
I
used to have a
understand that.
lot of friends in elementary school and middle school, but because I was like, because of how severely I was bullied in middle school, I kind of, in high school, I only really talked to teachers and like
Right.
only really talked to classmates when I was forced to.
Yeah.
I was in my head in like the textbooks and the book because I found them fun to read.
So does that impact the choices that you make when you're looking for a job? Did you build a strategy? Because right now I feel you're describing the type of puzzle piece that you are, right?
Yeah,
You're telling me, well, I feel I have these, I don't want to call them limitations, but you don't like these things. You have those
weaknesses that I want to try to get past.
right. So while you work on these zones where you can improve, do you have a strategy that kind of that you're looking for example, for a job that you would be, I don't know, behind a screen, or you wouldn't have to use your legs too much, or like is what you want compatible with who you are right now, or are you trying to fit yourself into something that is challenging?
I'd see it. I'd say it's like a kind of a mix of both. Because the field I want to go into is civil engineering and architecture, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Like, I love designing stuff, but one of the weaknesses I have with designing stuff is I'm not 100% sure I could make something physically sound or safe, like that could actually handle its purpose instead of just looking nice.
Mhm. Right. So the good thing is that they have codes that they design by, and they are extremely generous. Those codes, everything is kind of twice the solidity and the integrity that is actually needed. Uh, Civil engineers have that reputation of making pretty much everything undestroyable. So I think you could, if you were to learn the trade and design by those guidelines, I think you could sleep on your 2 years. I feel like civil engineering is not a field that would have you walk too much, and I don't. It
Well,
could
you'd have to
involve.
learn the site, and instead of just looking at like a topography map or like a satellite photo or just pictures other people taken, I feel like actually like hands-on, like you're physically there, seeing the job site in the area that you want to see, like see construction done or see work done on pipelines, stuff like that.
Sure, but there are many, and I don't really want to get into the specifics of it, but my one of very recent experience, I constructed a mining site with a team like in the mountains where there was nothing, and we did work with a bunch of civil engineers. And I can tell you that although there were punctual site visits, and most of them would happen in pickups or 4x4 of sorts, uh, a lot of it was also lidar scans, so 3D scans made by drones, and then so you would do a site visit and then work on the 3D, and then another site visit according to progress, and so on. Increasingly, if you're working onto big sites, it's like this. Obviously, if you work for a smaller company, they might do more things like manually and presentially, but technology is helping more and more, and I feel that could help that side of you also that doesn't enjoy too much meeting people face to face because lots of technology is involved.
Yeah.
But have you ever gotten experience? Is it something that you're studying or you're going towards right now?
It's more of like a hobby of mine that I want to turn into an occupation.
Right. Yeah. usually the things that we love and do spontaneously like that can become good career choices. I would encourage you to explore further and connect with the people even virtually. I know I spoke a lot about events and getting to know the people in real life, but right now it's still the COVID epidemics, and everybody understands if you reach out electronically. So it's a good moment for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Alex, if you pursue that direction, feel free to keep me posted, and we can have a separate chat about it if you'd like, and I'll see how I can make that dream easier to reach.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right. All right, then if that's all, I'm just gonna wish you guys a good night. It's 9:40 where I am, so I'm gonna call it a day, and hopefully I'll see you next week in VR chat because it will work.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.